Spoiler alert, this video contains endgame content from the final battle in Tears of the Kingdom. If you were to ask me which version of Ganondorf across all of his appearances is my favorite, my answer would have to be yes. But something different stirred in me when Nintendo revealed Ganondorf's design in Tears of the Kingdom.
The tasteful thickness of it.
And oh boy, I wasn't the only one excited. Ever since then, I've been wanting to make a custom Ganondorf action figure, so lately I've been on the lookout for a buff body whenever I scope the local thrift store toy aisles.
Oh yeah.
I think I found my big boy. Even though he's missing a leg, I still feel a little bad ruining an almost perfectly good Hulk toy. But there's just so many great plastic shapes out there. And if I can avoid sculpting or building something from scratch, I think it's worth destroying a classic toy or two. What do you think?
Hold up. Destroy what now?
At this point, I have a decision to make. Do I want to try to sculpt a duplicate Hulk leg to match this one? Or do I want to start from scratch and give him two new feet fit for a Demon King? I think this leg is too much of a tree trunk anyway. It's not that Ganondorf skips leg day though. It's just that he really works chest like he's a Rob Liefeld drawing. So in contrast to that barrel body, his calves and feet look a bit dainty. I'll save this leg for something though. I need something to attach to these leg nubs to retain some rotation, so I went to gather a few tubes from my bit box. Too loose, too tight, too loose. Oh, just right. And I happen to have two of them. These are a couple dollar store party favor horns, and they make a pleasant sound to summon the Demon King's army. First, to trim them down to size.
Oh no.
I'm suddenly not very confident that these flimsy tubes will hold on to the leg nubs very well, so I'm attaching a magnet to each end for a little extra limb grip. These tubes are pretty much the thigh bones, which are connected to the knee bone. These are my knees. These fidget toys are great whenever I need a joint with articulation. 4 of these will make up the knees and ankles. To build strong bones, I'm strengthening the connection point with some baking soda and super glue. This bond should be super strong now, and it definitely shouldn't leak down through the tube and accidentally glue itself to the body.
Oops.
The knee bone is connected to the chopstick bone. To connect this leg to the foot, I'm going to bridge it with another fidget joint. But first, the ankle needs some foot bones made from a wooden craft stick. With the leg bones done, we have a good skeleton to work off of, but it's time to start fleshing them out to match that muscle mountain of an upper body. I blame my obsession with this Ganondorf on my childhood love of Dragon Ball Z. Nothing beats coming home after school and watching Goku go Super Saiyan for the first time. And then when he gives Frieza that look, ooh, chills. I was crying. From there, it was all about Piccolo, Vegeta, Armstrong, All Might, and that's just the Chris Sabat starter pack. Thank you for allowing me to fawn over my boys. Now, back to the build.
Come on, what are you waiting for?
For the first layer of leg meat, I'm using a combo of very old milliput and even older green stuff that I just need to use up before it turns to stone. The quality of it being old makes it much harder to work with, and thus more painful for my little fingies to keep kneading. This stuff is pretty sticky, so I'm lubing up with some baby oil to prevent it from sticking to my fingers. But this was ultimately kind of a mistake. Pros, my hands are moisturized. That's awesome. And 2, I smell like a baby. That's a weird thing to put in the pro category, so we're going to call that more of a neutral or neutral con. As for actual cons, the oil was very slick and made it difficult for the milliput to adhere to the plastic. In hindsight, just some good old regular normal water would have been better. At this point, I was running low on this Millistuff green putt combo, so I used the dredges to stuff up these armholes. I'm not sure what they're for, and I hope this doesn't impede the posability later. Spoilers, it doesn't. These legs can still barely support that upper body, so I'm using some 2-part epoxy sculpt to buff out the muscles and add the clothing details. This epoxy needs a few minutes to set up so it's easier to work with, so in the meantime, this Hulk's groin needs sanding down. Ganondorf does not wear jeans, so this epoxy sculpt diaper should hide the zipper and the buttons. You'll notice, Ganondorf is also hiding abs 1 and 2 just below his belly button. Probably because he's very modest and doesn't want to intimidate Link with the full 6-pack. I flattened out a gray-flavored fruit leather with some fabric texture, then wrapped up those crunch berries using several thin strips of this gray fruit by the foot, whilst being extra careful to retain that waist swivel for maximum posability. After that, it was time to continue the pants down over the thighs. I rolled out some thin snakes of epoxy sculpt for the fabric folds, then blended them in. For the fabric texture, I first tried using this extraneous leg to copy the Hulk's jean pattern, but the quads were too firm and pushed the sculpt around, so a piece of fabric did the trick instead. Next up, some muscular calves. It's hard to see the details in Ganondorf's 720p legs, so I needed a little extracurricular study. I learned a lot, but I won't be able to feature everything on this model. The only bones you'll be able to see are the kneecap and the tibia, and for the muscles, these 2 plump little pork chops nestled in the back. At the top of the calves rests a crown of gold jewelry, which is a teaser for Ganondorf's gold obsession later. But with that, the legs are finished and we can flex the feet. I started out by giving him a pair of lumpy slippers. Then I gave the slippers some toes, which was daunting because I'm neither a sculptor nor a foot guy. Ultimately, the feet are passable though, good enough to stand on, but not good enough to step on me. But if the toes were daunting, the faces where things could easily go off the rails. I've sculpted a grand total of 3 faces and one of them looks like this.
Love me.
Maybe I can use the Hulk's face and just subtly add to it. I took it over to my face adjustment software and planned my attack of adding Ganondorf's most defining feature to the Hulk. But I quickly realized that it would take a powerful surgeon to be able to perform this level of face plastic surgery. I think I'll use this face as a base, but I'm going to resculpt pretty much everything from scratch. Because, after all,
That is what a king must do.
First, he needed a haircut, which got the Incredible Hulk looking more like the Incredible Dad. But we need to go fully bald. And don't you dare throw out those precious locks. They can be donated to a future project. With a Ganondorf reference in hand, it was time to start the facial reconstruction. I started with a layer of epoxy sculpt grafted over the face as a canvas. Then I built up a strong chin, even though I received conflicting reports on if he even has one. The rest of the face was built up one piece at a time to make the lips, nose, the deepest eye sockets you've ever seen, and Cro-Magnon brow. But as much as I tried to get Ganondorf's scowl just right, the ultimate result was the Demon King Carl Fredricksen. Fixing the resting curmudgeon face wasn't too hard though, just had to shave down the pouting lip and bring the upper lip down just a little bit. Then of course there's a plate of Gerudo jewelry grafted directly onto the Demon King's forehead to mount his secret stone.
Secret stone? Demon King?
After that I buffed out Ganondorf's beard gains with some spiky licks of flame, followed by his hair, which is pulled back tight into sort of a samurai chonmage hairstyle. Ganondorf's top knot is too powerful and thick, so it needs its own armature wire bones to keep its shape while he fights. I wrapped up his ponytail with some epoxy sculpt, but it needed a harder edge to it. A little croissant to finish up the top knot, then we'll finish off the hair with some texture. Lastly, we can't forget his pair of very prominent eyebrows trying to escape off of his face. Alright, that means the sculpt is done, and he's now ready to start accessorizing with some jewelry. Luckily, my partner keeps her dresser well stocked for such occasions. Here's my best Ganondorf impression.
Do not look away. You witness a king's jewelry haul.
Look at this chain right here. It's almost a perfect match for Ganondorf's armpit necklace. Armpitless. Using super glue, I attached segments of this chain around his massive arms, but we'll need some of the other chains imprisoned in this Rat King. Here's a trick for how to untangle this. Ganondorf's chains are accentuated with extra gold filigree, and this bead cap is almost perfect, but it's a little too round. Ganondorf definitely knows that everyone's checking out these arms. That's why each muscle group needs its own crown. Then between these two dueling peaks sits a shrine. For the rest of the necklace, a stray earring that's missing its pair. Then, from the bead box, a bunch of these tiny donut beads. The chest features the most ornate part of the jewelry. It's much more understated on the reverse though, just a chain wrapped around the Demon King's demon back. Using some armature wire and beads, I conjured up some rings to finish up his hands. Now let's see if these fists have what it takes to win. Ready? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot! Oh, drill beats rock. This action grip will be used for holding his signature katana later, but for now, we just need to smooth out the hole. Ganondorf also has a few other accessories and jewelry on his feet, which is great because I wasn't very proud of my sculpting, so I'll take any excuse to hide it or dress it up. The final pieces of jewelry are reserved for dressing up the top knot and ponytail. And with that, I was excited to bring it all together with a layer of primer. I'm painting Ganondorf greenish gray because that's the color that he is, but I primed him in red and pink. Why? This is actually an orc painting trick I gleaned from scratch bashing. Despite the zombie skin, Ganondorf still bleeds red, so this should retain some warmth and life in the shadows. But to really get those pecs to pop and those obliques to bop, I hit the top of every muscle group with a lighter shade with a bit of light blue mixed in. Ganondorf's hair and beard get a pass of flaming hot red. And for the pants, I need to mix up a new shade, but I ran out of mixing cups. Luckily, this egg carton had 24 farm fresh cups to spare. This clothing scheme is pretty modest for a Gerudo king, and that's because the opulence lies in accessorizing.
I love gold!
As I started to paint the jewelry, I wondered, did I forget to paint Ganondorf's nipples? And the answer is no. Ganondorf has no nipples. Journalists have reported on this already. I put nipples out of mind, then painted up the rest of the gold. This is when everything really started to shine. Ganondorf is fully ready to hit that final battle and tell Link,
See how I do it?
After hitting up some edge highlights on the nose and brows, the final and scariest detail was to attempt the eyes. This is when I was worried everything was about to head south, but with a steady hand, I maintained a path due north of the border. Stretching all the way from pec to rear delt, Ganondorf is bringing even more attention to his boulder shoulder with his traditional Gerudo tattoo. The only thing left to do on the main bod is some dry brushing to bring out some of the edge highlights on the clothing, but now I need to figure out what to do about his kimono. As a kid, and also a grown-up, I never liked action figures with fabric clothing. The scale seemed off to me. But I also don't really want to make a plastic clamshell stuck in one bulky pose. I think fabric is the way to go here. Time for some shopping. Ooh, look at that. I was standing right next to this one, and that means it's good. though it's mostly spandex, but I love a good anachronism, so it's perfect. I only needed about a foot for such a small figure, but because of the length of the fabric bolt, I think I have enough to make myself a LBD. If you know me, I'm afraid of sewing, but I think I have no choice. I thought about following a pattern for making a tiny kimono because that seems like a good thing to do, but nah, I'm just gonna wing it piece by piece, trace out the fabric based off how it sits on the body, cut out one puzzle piece at a time without thinking ahead, then sew the seams together using hot glue thread. I only burnt myself 3 or 4 times before developing this hot glue technique of putting parchment paper between my skin and the fabric. Fabric has holes and the glue goes through those holes, turns out. Clothing is usually symmetrical, which is a feature that might be aided by following a pattern. But if you're making a robe for a cool guy that only wears one sleeve, then it kinda doesn't matter if the other sleeve is exactly the same as the first. Heck, it doesn't even matter if the second sleeve is functional. My confidence in this approach was based on knowing that Ganondorf just bunches up half the kimono and lets it fall to the side, hiding any would-be fancy seam work. Fun fact, from what I could find online, Ganondorf's style of wearing the kimono with one bare shoulder is called katahara, and it originates back to the 18th century Edo period in Japan. There's some conflicting information online for why this style developed. Some say it was for archers to keep their sleeves out of the way of their bow arm. Another source said its origin is kabuki theater worn by ronin to keep their sword arm free. Possibly an intimidation tactic to show that they're always ready to draw their sword. No matter the origin, I think we can agree that for Ganondorf, the reason is simple. He's just trying to show off that immaculate pump. We just need something to strap the pump cover perpetually open. Time to check the game.
Do not look away.
That's a horseshoe. I tied a strip of white and gray fabric from one end of the horseshoe buckle to the other, then trimmed off the excess. His right sleeve is a little bit of a cowlick, but since Ganondorf isn't going to wear it, I'm going to hot glue it down to give the illusion that it's obeying gravity. And as is customary, you always put on your head after your jacket. You don't want your long, stiff ponytail getting in the way of your collar. Now there's only one hole left to fill, which I've been waiting on a delivery for. I ordered a tiny metal katana since I was too lazy to forge one. Oh, but this package has way too much tape though. I might need my letter opener for this. Ooh, nice. This is gonna work great. I just need to sand off this red so that I can paint it green. This sword is never coming out of this hand, that's why I'm gluing on a slightly larger pommel to lock it in place. And finally, we need a base, which unbeknownst to you was secretly finished before Ganondorf, a fact that doesn't matter based on the continuity of this edit and how you've been experiencing time. But for sculpting timelines, Studson, every time he mixed up epoxy sculpt for Ganondorf, he consistently mixed up too much, but rather than wasting it, any extra was used to create these tendrils of gloom. I'm covering the whole base in a coat of black paint and Mod Podge, and if you're wondering how to best apply this goop, after that, it was a few progressive layers of lighter and lighter red until it looked appropriately nasty. But do you know what else looks nasty, but in the good way? All of this Legend of Zelda related art sent in by my patrons. Occasionally, over on the Studson Patreon, as always, link in the description, we'll hold various art challenges and showcases. This video's theme was a continuation from the previous video, which was open to any art related to the Legend of Zelda across any sort of creative medium. Last time, I mentioned a severe lack of art related to the Zelda CDI games, the Wand of Gamelon and the Faces of Evil, but luckily, someone came through with this masterpiece right here. So good. But actually, all of this art is so good. Thanks for sending in your lovely art, everyone. And if you're interested in sending in art for future showcases or hearing your name in a shoutout song or mediocre rap, check out the Patreon. Speaking of shoutouts, here's a bunch that are long overdue to be thanked right now. Eliza Conti Yokari, Vincent Manet, Rachel Lipinski, Christine Lee, Salty Cupcake, Stars and Sprinkles, Michael Collins, Q2K, Jen Greenwood, Curti Boy, Samantha Menes, Patrick and Bethany, Christina L. Gavin Knapp, Heartbeat 013, Yara Visno, Jimble Jams, Wild Day Mini and Fatal Gift, Corbonosaurus, Jeffrey Miller, Ashby, Andrew, Nazca, Medeiros, 8 Pump Chai, Bowser, Hauser, Chef Julie B, Cassie Howard, Alfie, Pampele, Cthulhu's PP, Sad Boy, Isla, Ferguson, Breach No Excellent, Boiled Potato of Kermoran, Dash and Cora, Taylor, Gillis, Ali, Chara, Spidwa, Teddy, Funstock, Stephanie, Eliana, Gisawa, Diesel, Com Family, Steph Root, Avatar, Elijah, Nancy, Druidini, Wolf, Katka, Beagle, Harova. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you're wondering what the next video is, I've carefully hidden 0 clues throughout this video. Here's the time code for the first clue. Until then, bye-bye, see you next time. Thank you for watching my video, but now, would you hear my desire?
I'd like nothing more than to smash the Demon King.